Hello and welcome. You're watching The Reporter on NDTV Profit and I'm your host Smriti Chaudhary. As always, this show aims to bring you the market headlines along with national and international news. But before we move on to that, Maruti Suzuki has just come out with its fourth quarter numbers and we're going to listen to the management that has just started speaking.
This year specifically, we have a lot of good news coming from the company in the sense that, as you already know, I think we crossed sales of 2.2 million to actually we reached over 2.1 million. We had the highest exports ever at about 285,000 cars. We had the highest turnover. We've had the highest absolute numbers in terms of profits. And overall, therefore, it's been an excellent year. Thanks largely to the increase in production, the fact that we didn't have many of the constraints to production which have been with us for the last 2-3 years, the fact that the material prices remain somewhat benign throughout this period, that the company had a record in terms of the suggestions implemented and the savings resulting. I mean, just to mention to you, for the first time, Maruti, this excluding Gujarat, between Gurgaon and Manesar, we crossed 1 million suggestions implemented. That's something which we had not done ever before, and it's all reflected in the results which we get. So it does happen sometimes when several factors which affect the bottom line all come together. So we have had a result which is, in all respects, in terms of profits and all that, very good sales profit. This leads to the shareholder also getting a substantial increase of almost 40% in his dividend. From 90 rupees, we are going up to 125 rupees a share. And I think that would be good news for the lots of shareholders who have held on to Maruti despite its price going up to pretty high levels. So that's on the number side. You have all the results before you. I don't need to spend more time on that. The other news is that our expansion plan at Kharkhoda is proceeding smoothly. We expect that the first line will start production before the end of this financial year. And thereafter, we should be able to add one new production line every 12 months or so. We have not been able to finalize our second site for the expansion program because before we could do that and sign all the necessary papers, the code of conduct came into force, and so everything had to be put into cold storage till that aspect was taken care of. So that's as far as the production side is concerned. We are proceeding on our, what should I say, the efforts to clean the environment in full force. I think we are as much committed to that as the government is. We want to be completely in line with government's programs and to support government in helping reach the carbon neutrality targets for 2070. And for that, not only are we so far been completely compliant with all the regulatory requirements of the government, but we have been pushing rail transport to reduce the carbon footprint. Sending cars by truck is much more polluting. This year, again, we reached the highest ever transportation by trucks at about 4.5 lakh cars. And we had, of course, that event where the Prime Minister inaugurated the first siding within a factory for sending cars. And as a result of what is happening on the infrastructure front and the cooperation from the railways, we expect that rail transport of cars will increase steadily and fairly substantially in the periods to come. All the requirements of new rakes and other things are being done. And that's one area we want to continue with. Our solar capacity in the company has already reached about 43 megawatts, and we will continue our efforts to create more and more solar generation in the company. We are also looking at biogas production as a means of substituting the CNG, which is used in the production processes in electricity generation and all in Gurgaon and Manesar. And we want to make that again on a big step towards carbon neutrality. So with all these steps, I think we are in sync in that area and going forward. What else is it that we are? The Maruti 3.0, as you know, is on. The acquisition of SMG proceeded very smoothly. We are now working very closely with Suzuki Japan to find and evolve the best changes which are required in management practices and in the way we do things, so that the larger targets which we have set of 4 million cars and an export of 750,000 to 800,000 cars by 2030-31 are all achieved in the most efficient manner possible. The rest of the business today, okay, I should mention, sorry, I should have said this earlier. As you see on the panel which we have here, you have two new faces. The CFO, Mr. Arnab Roy, has joined us a few months ago, and he replaces Mr. Seth, who you've been seeing as the CFO for the last many, many years. And as a part of the reorganization of the company, and the managing director has created a new advisory council for himself, an executive council. Mr. Partho Banerjee has now taken over from Shashank Srivastav as the head of marketing. He was looking after the service function. He made that function become much, much bigger than what he had found it to be, and it's been one of the major sources of income for the dealers. And I'm sure the marketing function will go very well. And he in future will be the one interacting with you on many areas of the marketing front. So with these words, I'll close and leave it open for questions. Before I do that, I'd request Pakistan if you would like to say a few words.